Day04 studio setup background. So one of the things I'm gonna do is, just so you guys for a grade, just have a simple studio presentation, sort of like this guy right here. Daniel Simon, he is a vehicle designer. He went from working on vehicles for, I believe, Ferrari and a few other things, to work on things for Tron. He made the vehicles for Tron. He was lead vehicle designer. And Captain America. Now he works in movies primarily. So one thing that inspired me was having setups like these, or this. Your typical background, studio background that fades to black. You guys can be much more creative, like he's done here, and done something in orange. One of my favorites here. This inspired me to do help out with Duke De Castro. He had a white Z4, and this piece really inspired me. So we're gonna do something like this. Not that complicated. I think it's very simple. When I looked at his process, I think he made it much more complicated. But that's how car designers work. They try to look for everything that's sort of pushing buttons or a lot of lights and rendering. So I'm gonna create a cylinder. I'm gonna use my scene here and sort of make a punch bowl here. That's what they do call this. Knock out the top. You can do this in a number of different ways here. Make that a little bit bigger. Take that floor. Make it wide enough, because we're going to have a camera in here. Let's go into our side view so we make sure that this is actually touching the tires where they could be. Don't worry if it's not 100% flush. Actually, I'm going to draw right through this. That's just to give me some subdivisions. Oops. Doesn't want to cross. And that doesn't want to cross. Alright, fine. I'll go up to this point because I'm going to have my camera in here. Right around here. Let's make this nice and tall. We're going to have a camera right here. Get rid of this grid and our planes. And you want to make sure, if you go on your angle here, you have about this much room, or you can zoom in as you turn. You don't have to have the front. I've deleted the front so it doesn't get in my way of the camera. I could always turn on back face culling, but I'm not. Okay, after I got my initial shape set up, I'm gonna go ahead and soften this, because if I go to 3 mode, see how it's not contained and it jumps out. Very simple. Let's go into insert edge loop. We're going to want this to ramp up, just like so. Hold that a little bit more, and even on the floor I'm just going to scale this in to give myself some. There we go. That can actually be much softer. So when we scale that in around here, There we go. This bumps up a little bit, but I'm not worried about that because that's not going to show on mine. And when I get to this point, then I can start subdividing again. Yeah, in, gone, going on, don't I? Okay. Get wireframe off shaded and really look at this. That's pretty much it. You know, if this shadow shows up a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and deal with that. I'm still blocking it out, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, once we set this up, this is pretty much it. We can go in to Window, Rendering Editors, go to your Hypershade. I'm going to take a Lambert in this case, and I'm going to assign this a Lambert to the background. Let's go ahead and title that so we are tracking our shaders. Background, Lambert. Let's go ahead and assign a ramp to this. And what you guys see here, see how this has a dark value over here? Let's take something a little bit different. Let's take this thing right here. So you see how he's gone from dark, very dark, and then he comes as if there's a spotlight hitting here. And I believe there actually is one spotlight hitting there. So I'm going to take these values and they are not going the right way here. So let's go ahead and project this. I'm going to have my camera here. I'm going to go to create UVs. Create UVs based on the camera. It's going to take whatever the camera's looking at and project UVs on there. So now if we look at our ramp, the blue is at the top here, green is in the middle, and red is at the bottom. And I'm going to try to go for this look here. So I'm going to want white, and I'm going to want some sort of gray in the middle, and then we can just go for black at the top, fade to black. So bring this up, get really dark right there, and bring this black down here. And see how there's this harshness right there? So we're going to go for a linear, we're going to go for a smooth. Smooth that out a little bit. And the great thing about this is that I'm getting instant feedback here. Because I was shooting like this, projecting like that, that's why I'm sort of getting that UV section there. I'm not worried about too much. Okay, I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. Let that smooth out. There we go. I want this to be that white. And now I've essentially recreated what he's done right here. And when we go back, we're going to go into our channel box, we're going to assign this, create another layer, call this background, I'll say punch bowl layer. And now it's assigned, that's locked in there. The second part of this setup, we're going to go into our perspective view. What we want to do is create a camera that we're comfortable with. In this case, it's just got more of a straight-on camera. We can do much more dynamic shots. If I go into my pictures, Aston Martin, and I can look for a nice shot that I admire. Here's something 3/4 down. Pull out a little bit. Once I get this shot and I say, wow, I feel comfortable with that, I think that's great, I'm going to go into panels, perspective, and I'm going to select my perspective. I'll go to view, select camera. This comes up, it says perspective. I'm just going to hit Control D. I've duplicated that. You'll notice down here I'm still in perspective view. I'm going to call this, and everyone else should call it, because when I open up your scene I want to have consistency. I don't want to have to find something that's new. Call this render cam. Render cam. This is your render camera. Once I get my render camera set up, I'm going to select all of these attributes, and I'm going to right click and say lock selected. Then I can go into my panel here. Render cam should be a new camera in here. I'm going to go right to render cam. This will switch to render cam. Because I've locked every attribute in here, I cannot move this camera. I'll go back to my perspective camera. I can now move everything. My perspective camera is my work camera. This is what I want to work in. My render cam, when I go to render this is what I want. Going off of this view, this is what I'm going to shoot for. And basically this is the only setup that you guys will work with. Now for those of you who move forward and start to feel that your car is coming to a completion and block out in first pass, and you do this and you want to do something a little bit more creative, go ahead and give it a shot. You know, do your research if you see something. I'm not talking about building an existing environment. Do not do that. That's taking on a bigger task. I'm talking about putting in a few geometric shapes. Josh Harris from last term, he put a brick wall, put some concrete in there, and he had a really nice background to reflect horse reflections. So, you know, keep it very simple, and you know, you can keep it creative. You don't have to necessarily do this, but this is the absolute basic setup for you guys that you need for your presentation grade. I want something like we see here. Your car will be right in the middle there. So that's it, and we're all going to do this together.